Hi everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of Pounds and Edges.
That's right. This is our weight loss, health-based review series. Every time one of us loses a pound or an inch, that triggers a new review.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited to be able to bring you a new review, but before we get to the game, we just wanted to touch base on how things were going this past week health-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest takeaway I have has been awareness. I need to be aware of when I'm being inactive, and I could be filling that time with activity, and I need to be more aware of what I'm putting in my body. That's what kind of got me in this mess, and that's going to be what gets me out of this mess, is more awareness.
Yeah, and I've been spending the past months just trying to build up my mileage. I'm hoping to do a half marathon in October, but I want to build up my base so when I start training for that, I would be able to. So this week we're hoping to get 9 miles in, so wish me luck on that. And then also we just want to say that we really appreciate all the comments that you guys have been giving us.
Yeah, absolutely. That comments, that gives us motivation. It brings us some happiness and some joy to know that we're giving you something that you like, and that you're giving us something right back. And that's kind of how this community works, and we're really appreciative of it.
All right, now we're done with that. Let's go on to games.
All right. So once again, the loss of a pound triggered a new review. I'm down 4 pounds. And that brings us to the Two Towers Deck Builder by Cryptozoic.
Yep, so for episode 421 and 158, we're going to be talking about deck builders.
All right, so if you've never heard of a deck builder, or if this is a new concept for you, basically what's going to happen is you're going to start with a deck of very small, very weak cards. They're going to give you just a little bit of what's called power in this case, which is your currency for the game. You're going to use that small deck of cards to buy some cards out here that give you more power. You're going to shuffle that into your deck, and then when you draw from that new deck that you've built with a couple of extra cards, your hands are going to be a little bit stronger. You're going to use that little bit stronger of hand to buy bigger and bigger cards, keep that snowball rolling until you have a well-oiled machine. Your deck is the way you want it, and you can buy bigger and better cards and hopefully win the game.
Yeah, and in a competitive deck building game, something always triggers the end of the game, and then whoever has the most points in their deck is declared the winner.
Yeah, so in this case, this is in the theme of the Lord of the Rings. There's 3 games in this series, obviously matching both the movies and the books. There's the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King.
We have the Two Towers set up for you right now to look at.
But this is kind of a review of all 3, really, rather than give you a review of each one of the 3 separately.
And so what's the system that Cryptozoic does for all their games?
Yeah, this is called, I believe it's called pronounced the Cerberus system, Cerberus engine. There's a whole lot of games in this system. In addition to the 3 we mentioned about the Lord of the Rings, there's also ones in the DC universe with Batman and Robin and all those guys. There's just a lot in that series. So no matter who you are, you're going to be able to find something that resembles this in a fan system or a intellectual property that you like.
One of the basic themes with this system is that there's always cards out here that you can purchase, and then there's just the cards that any player can also purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when a card is bought, it then gets replaced, and that's available for the next player.
Mm-hmm.
With this, there's a few different types of cards. We have maneuvers, enemies, allies, artifacts, and locations. And you probably can't see those actual words, but it's just the orange, red, green, blue, and purple. The text and what they do don't really vary that much. However, there's cards that refer to types of cards.
Yeah, that's kind of where you get a little bit of the synergy and the energy or the engine building of this game. A card might reference the green cards, the allies, and say, for every ally in your hand, draw a card. Or for every enemy in your discard pile, get some extra power to buy cards with.
Yeah, and because we mentioned that this is one of a trilogy, we actually have all 3 of the trilogies, and we just wanted to point out or give a nod to Broken Token. We actually have this.
Yeah, this is the Broken Token insert. They are a company who makes custom inserts for games that don't have great inserts or inserts that don't hold, all of the expansions, for instance. In this particular case, this holds all of the cards for all 3 of the Lord of the Rings deck building games in one box using the insert.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool.
It saves up a lot of shelf space, and so we're able to add in more games that we can view.
Exactly.
So yeah, we just wanted to give a nod to that. It's a really neat thing that we like.
Yeah, so each game has a little bit of a different twist to it. They're not exact carbon copies. Then the Fellowship of the Ring, the kind of the gist is you're going on that journey with all the characters that you know and love from the Lord of the Rings, and the cards are a little bit stronger, and you're taking down the big bad guys that you face. And this one, there has a mechanism called the wall deck. You can't probably see it that well, but basically what's going to happen is, if you're familiar with the book or the movie, in the Two Towers, there's a big battle at Helm's Deep, this big fortress is the big wall, and the bad guys are trying to punch through it, and that's represented here by that deck. If you ever need to draw cards from the wall deck and it's not there, you run out of cards in the wall deck, the game triggers a quick end, as opposed to the normal way you end, which is by completing the deck of arch enemies.
Yeah. One of the things that I enjoyed about this game, which is a positive for me, but it may not be a positive for everybody, is that the game is a little mindless. Not to say that you don't have to think while you're playing the game. Just if you're coming from a huge crunchy game, this game doesn't have nearly the same brain power necessary to play it.
You can even really just kind of go on autopilot if you want. You might not win the game, but basically you use the power that you have in your hand, buy the best card available, and you'll probably do all right. So it's a little bit mindless in that way. That's either good or bad, depending on how you want to look at it. I like the synergies that you have the option of buying into. I mentioned that there's the different card types. You want to try to build synergies in your deck that take advantage of that. If you have a card that benefits from having a lot of allies, well, by golly, buy a lot of allies. Make that card as strong as possible.
Another thing that I enjoy about this game is the pictures on it. It brings me back to thinking of the movies, and I like being brought back to those characters and those scenes and those sentences and those lines that you think of and that you remember while watching the movies. And the game is just littered with all sorts of things that any fan would really appreciate.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring up too is the designer of this game is actually fairly active on Board Game Geek. If someone has a rules question or a comment, he'll honestly be the first one online a lot of times answering that rules question and give you the correct rule clarification. And that's kind of cool. I love the Board Game Geek, or BGG, is a place where the players of games and the creators of games can get together and be a community.
Yeah, another thing that I enjoyed about this game, and I want to note again that this is maybe just a Bethany thing and not an other gamer thing, but I appreciate the amount of text that's on a card. In other deck builders that we've played, if there's a lot of text on a card, our gaming group knows I'm not going to buy it. I'm not putting that in my hand just because I don't want to read through a paragraph. And so I appreciate how not a lot of the cards in this game have more than 2 sentences to explain what it does.
Yeah, it's usually pretty clear what it does, and it's very concise. There are some downsides to this game. It's not a perfect game by any means. I'm not sure there is one, but there's some small thematic discrepancies. For instance, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You buy these enemies, and then you put them in your deck, and then they're working for you. They're in your. I don't really understand how that works. It's a little bit goofy, but that's a nitpick. It doesn't really affect the gameplay at all.
Yeah, another thing to note is that there are dozens of games, different IPs with this game on it. And we've played some of them before. We've played some other games. I played a DC game, and I'm not familiar at all with DC, and I didn't enjoy it. And so that tells me that this game, the reason my enjoyment comes from it is because of the theme, is because of it being Lord of the Rings, as opposed to the gameplay.
Yeah, the theme really kind of covers over a litany of sins, as it were, and it can be fun, but what really makes it fun is seeing the pictures and the characters that you love, reading the quotes, reminiscing about the books and the movies, and that's kind of brings it home.
Yeah, and then another thing to know is this game can struggle with runaway leader. If you just happen to have a good hand in the beginning of the game and there's just good cards or more expensive cards that just happen to be out and you get them before anybody else can, there's a really good chance that you're going to win the game.
Yeah, you're really kind of at the mercy of luck. If those cards aren't there for you when you need them, you really need to buy an ally this turn to make your next hand stronger, or whatever the case is, and it just doesn't happen to be the card that flips over the top card of the deck. You're going to struggle. So you're at the mercy of the luck, both good and bad.
Yeah, and so as I mentioned with the theme being pasted on this, I do want to note that if you find this in a fandom that you like, you're going to like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so this game, MSRP is right around $55. So that's something that calls to you if you're into the Lord of the Rings theme at all. This is something that you're probably going to enjoy. And really, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you've spent more than $55 on a piece of your collection. Admit it. I know we have. And if you're not a fan of Lord of the Rings, you're going to be able to find a game that does appeal to you, and you can spend that $55 on that version of this system.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely recommend that too, because like I said, the nostalgia in this is just incredible whenever we play. So if you have a fandom that you really adhere to and this system is available in that fandom, I would buy it.
Yeah, so this is something that we can recommend if you're into the Lord of the Rings theme, or if you're going to buy one of the other ones, something in that fandom, that intellectual property.
Yeah.
This is a great game to end the night with. It's a great game. It's a great palate cleanser, so that way you're ready to go to bed on a high note.
Yeah, and it's also a great game for somebody who maybe isn't necessarily a gamer, but does love Lord of the Rings. I'm pretty positive that they would play this game.
Great entry point into the deck building genre. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. Once again, this has been Pounds and Inches with Ryan and Bethany. We hope you follow us, subscribe to us on either our YouTube channel at Pounds and Inches or on our blog, which is kind of where you can chronicle our weight loss challenges and successes that we've had. Pounds and Inches blog on Board Game Geek.
All right. Until next time.
Bye, guys.